Let's talk about the new Bella Beaute Bar Unoriginal Nudes palette. I think the Mean Girls inspired packaging is definitely on theme with this palette. So let's take a look at the inside color story. It is a neutral palette with predominantly, I would say, warmer tones, some neutral tones. So pretty different from the Smoky Glam palette that had just launched, the new revamped palette, which was the same size, but it had much more mauve tones, more pinkish tones. And this palette has already launched and it retails for $69. And I do have an affiliate code with the brand, which you can use to save 10% off, and thank you so much if you do use my code. And I did receive this palette in PR, so thank you so much to Bella Beaute Bar for sending it over to me. So let's get into some detailed swatches of all of the shimmer shadows, as well as some comparisons of 3 looks, and I'll give you some of that at the end of the video. Here is Token Shimmer 1, Token Shimmer 2, very similar in texture. Super smooth and just a very sparkly, very ethereal. This one does have a little bit more of a base to it. Definitely remind me of Skin of a Killer, which I was really hoping that Bella Beaute Bar would do more shades like that, but different shades. It's an icy white with maybe just a hint of like a gray with bright pink flecks throughout it. And then this one is a cool toned pink with bright pink and silver reflex in it. And they are just ultra sparkly. They don't feel wet or anything like that. And for the close-up, I do think that these sparkles are pretty subtle between both of them, so you won't really see them from afar. Next 3 shades are Replicate, Mimic, and Ignorance is Bliss. And these are about the same texture, so they're slightly more flaky, but none of them feel like wet or squishy, but they do spread really nicely. I would definitely recommend a tacky primer with these. And then this shade is Hollow. I feel like this one feels a little bit like just slightly drier almost, and it doesn't really spread more evenly like the other 2 shades. It is a silver with a really light plum base to it. I think this one's going to look really differently depending on the matte you pair with it. Super beautiful warm brown, which does reflect a little bit lighter brown because it is so sparkly. And then a true hollow, so it's very gray looking with a ton of hollow. And then last 3 shades, Echo, Token Shimmer 3, and Oblivious. I think Oblivious has a very similar texture to Token Shimmer 1 and 2. And Echo is definitely the least sparkly, very smooth in the pan. And Token Shimmer is like a beautiful, very smooth type of metallic, and none of these feel wet or overly squishy, which I'm very excited about. Just going to add a little bit. So this is a warm brown with gold sparkles throughout it. Looks very dimensional because of the sparkles. Token Shimmer is almost like an iridescent. It has a pinky reflect with a bunch of flecks throughout it, and it does shift all the way to, and it does shift a little bit like light green on an angle, and I see pink and blue flecks throughout it. And Oblivious is a beautiful olivey tone silver shade, and I see blue sparkles throughout it. A couple of comparisons. Token Shimmer 1 from the Unoriginal Nudes palette, Skin of a Killer from the Vamp palette, Skin of a Killer the highlighter. This is Ignorance is Bliss, and this is just Hollow from Bella Beaute Bar, the single eyeshadow. So I think texture-wise, finish-wise, I think that Shimmer 1 is more similar to the highlighter version of Skin of a Killer. I still feel like this one is just a little bit more toppery. It just has a little bit more of a nuance, and it has a little bit less of a base, while the Skin of a Killer highlighter has a little bit more of a visible base, which I do feel like is very similar in Token Shimmer 1. As for the hollows, I definitely think the Ignorance is Bliss hollow is going to be a little bit easier to use than just hollow. That being said, it is still flaky, so it is the same texture in terms of particle size, but the palette shade definitely has a little bit more biter in it, which is going to make it easier to apply than just hollow, which is very dry. It doesn't really swatch evenly. Taking Unoriginal Nudes 6, and I'm popping that into my crease. And then I'm taking nude 4 and I'm blending that out. And then taking nude 1, just on the edges of that. Going back in with a little bit of nude 6. And just really kind of blowing it out here. Taking nude 10 on the outer corner. Just kind of first placing it down, and then I'm gonna start blending it out. Super, super pigmented. So far, all of these shades are really, really pigmented. But they blend so easily, adding a little bit to my lower lash line. Gonna go back in with this fluffy brush with no extra product and just a blend on the edges. Picked up Token Shimmer number 1, and I misted it with the Cosmetics Fix Potion. And I'm popping that right onto the inner lid. This shade is super, super twinkly. It's a little bit more of a topper. Oh my goodness, it is so, so pretty. I feel like if I was to wear this for the whole day, I would definitely wear a tacky primer just to avoid any fallout. I think for the rest of the lid, I want to use Token Shimmer number 3. And again, I misted it. This one's a little bit more silvery, a little bit more opaque, a little different texture as well. Here's the first finished look. For the second look, I'm taking Unoriginal Nude number 7 and popping that into the crease. These are super, super pigmented. Like really, really pigmented. Not saying that Beaute bars mattes are usually not pigmented, but these all have a very similar level of opacity to them. Even from swatching, I could just tell. There's definitely a little bit of kick up in the pan. Just a little bit. And I'm really trying to keep this area pretty open. And then I'm just kind of feathering out the edges here. Taking nude 11, and I'm gonna deepen this up. Just add that gray into the pink. I think they're gonna go really well together. I'm switching to the other brush, the fluffier brush, just to help blend that together. And go back in with just a tiny bit more and connect my lower lash line. And then blend, blend, blend. And I am gonna use, I think I'm gonna go in with the black, so nude 12. Same brush, and I'm just popping it right up against my lash line and really keeping it on the mobile lid. And just kind of blending up and into the gray. Just to add just a little bit of depth, and then dragging whatever might be left onto the lower lash line. I'm gonna go in with just a little bit more of nude 7 just over here, back to re-intensify it on this outer corner. Putting on some Shine On Shimmer Shadow Enhancer from Clionadh, and I'm just gonna tap on it. Token Shimmer 2, gonna pop that right up in here. Super, super twinkly, similar in texture to the Token Shimmer 1. And I'm just gonna add that as like a wee bit of a highlight in here. I'm just gonna use the same brush, but I'm going into Replicate, which this one is a little bit more flaky. And I might get a little bit of fallout. I would probably use a little bit more of a thicker kind of tacky primer for this kind of shade. Something that will be a bit different in tackiness. The shade's really interesting because it kind of looks like it has a lighter purple base. And here's the second finished look. Onto the third look. I primed with the Morphe brushes eyeshadow primer. I believe this is the shade Airplay. I'm first taking Unoriginal Nude 2, and I'm just gonna pop that into the crease and just blend it all the way through the crease. Taking Nude 8, and I'm just gonna pop that onto the inner crease and outer crease and just slowly blending it out. I'm taking a clean, fluffy brush with nothing on it and just going over the edges. Taking nude 9, and I'm just gonna pop that right up against my lash line on the outer corner and my inner lid as well, but again, super close there. I don't want it to go up too far. Wiping off the brush, this is the Glaminatrix Cosmetics E08, which is so perfect for something like this because I have to be really focused, and I'm just slowly blending this out, but really trying to stay pretty low up to my lash line. I feel like this is my favorite kind of brown to wear with my eye color. I feel like it really makes my eye color pop. And I'm just adding a little bit more over here as well. And then I'm taking up the other brush I was using, and I'm just going over that and just meshing everything together. Putting down a little bit of Fahrenheit Pixie Epoxy just right in the center of my lid. And I'm just gonna tap on it. Tap Oblivious, and that's gonna go right in the center here. I love the blue sparkles in this shade. And then I'm gonna bring it up into my crease and then just making sure that it is nice and blended into the mattes as well. Here's a finished look. This is definitely going into my top drawer where I keep all my go-to eyeshadow palettes. For sure, I love the color story. It is a neutral color story, but I feel like it's really well balanced. Maybe I could have used one less of these kind of beigey neutral tones. I just go in with my setting powder, for example, like really this one. But I do like having these tones to match and blend out some of these other mid-tone mattes. And then of course the deepening up shades is really nice to have. And I also really like that there is a mix of warm and cooler tones and neutral tones in here, so it's a little bit of everything, which makes this a really well balanced neutral palette. So even though they are Unoriginal Nudes, I also think it's really good for a brand to have a neutral palette in their palette lineup. So let's talk about the mattes and the shimmers. The mattes are super opaque, very pigmented. They do have a little bit more kick up, I feel like, compared to what I'm used to from Bella Beaute Bar, but it does kind of depend on the shade a little bit between the different palettes. They blend really easily and they layer on top of each other, which is super important to me. Definitely something I really look for in a matte formula, and I do really enjoy the Bella Beaute Bar formula, and I feel like this is really easy to use. I don't feel like I need to worry about any sort of issues with the mattes when I'm reaching for this palette, getting ready for work. I only have half an hour. I know I can get a really nice blend. I can layer a little bit if I want to, and I know I won't have any issues. And so far, I did also try the mattes on 2 different eyeshadow primers, the Ulta eyeshadow primer and the Morphe eyeshadow primer, and both of them worked really well. Moving on to the shimmers, I'm so happy to see that none of these shades are overly squishy, overly emollient. Some of them do have just a little bit more slickness to them, but I'm not really too concerned about that. Usually those kinds of shades tend to maybe crease within a few hours and I just have to tap them out. It's when eyeshadows crease within 30 minutes and I have to baby them the whole day. That's when it bothers me, but I'm really happy that none of these feel really squishy. I would still recommend a tacky primer, especially if you have hooded oily lids, and especially if you're prone to fallout. Specifically, the shade Replicate, Mimic, and Ignorance is Bliss have a little bit more flakiness to them, so they do need just a little bit of something to stick down to. Now, Bella Beaute Bar did say they have 4 shades in here that are similar to Skin of a Killer texture from the highlighter and the palette. I definitely can tell 3 of them, but I'm having trouble pinpointing the 4th one because I don't really feel like there's 4 shades with a very similar texture. So definitely Shimmer 1, 2, and Oblivious feel like they're the same really PC, beautiful, ethereal, extra sparkly, topper-like effect of Skin of the Killer. But as I mentioned, Replicate, Mimic, and Ignorance is Bliss are just a little bit too flaky for that. And then Token Shimmer 3 just feels really smooth. It doesn't feel like it has the same particle size. And then Echo is very different. It's a little bit thicker to the touch. It feels a little bit harder pressed, especially compared to these. And while it has gold flecks throughout it, it's just a different effect. It's a little bit more opaque as well, though it can be definitely shared out. So I definitely think there's 3 shades that are very similar to Skin of a Killer, but I'm not sure about the 4th one. Overall, I really love all the shimmers in here. I see myself using all of them, and I do really like when a palette, especially a little bit larger of a palette, has a couple of different textures in it, as well as levels of opacity. So I'm really enjoying this palette. I see myself reaching for these shimmers and the mattes so much. Like, this is a great everyday palette, as I mentioned, definitely going in my top drawer. So let me know in the comments below which look was your favorite. Do you plan on picking this up or did you already pick it up? I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoy this kind of content, you love swatches of shiny, shifty, sparkly eyeshadows and tutorials, then I will put up some of my other videos up for you to check out. And thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time.